Southwestern. Good morning, Southwestern. Thank you. Some of you are getting to know me already. We're waiting for a few more students and faculty and staff to enter the room, but we're going to go ahead and get started as they do so. I want to thank all of you for being here today. It's a wonderful experience to stand here and see all of you ready and prepared for this remarkable session that you have. My name is Janelle Williams, and I am the Acting Executive Director of Employee Equity, Inclusion, and Professional Development. I want to take just a couple minutes to acknowledge the amazing team from Professional Development who makes all of these events happen, starting with Patricia Hink, Andre Ortiz, and including Lourdes and Susie and Marcela and Wael and Christina. This team puts things together, and I always say I am just the steering wheel and they are the engine and the wheels and everything else that makes this program run. So please put your hands together to thank them for their work. Thank you. I also want to acknowledge our amazing custodial and maintenance staff that put all of these events together for us in terms of making them accessible for you to come in and receive the message. So thank you very much for that as well, for our staff who put things together for us. I'm going to ask if our English faculty in the room can please stand. All right. I want to acknowledge the English faculty in particular, because had it not been from them and their tenacity to reach out to me and say, Janelle, you know what, we have someone fantastic that we really think needs to be here at Southwestern, then this wouldn't be happening today. So I want to acknowledge and thank them for their vision and their brilliance in bringing this idea to my attention. And now, to get started, you ready to get started? We're in for a treat today. So I would like to introduce one of the brilliant English faculty, Katie Ness Santana, who will be bringing up our keynote speaker. Thank you.
I'm going to adjust the mic for my height impairedness. Good morning, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I want to give you a little bit of background information about who our amazing speaker is, because I think it's really important to contextualize who he is and his accomplishments, and then also explain to you why we chose him, right? Dr. Curtis Acosta is currently the Assistant Professor in Language and Culture and Education at the University of Arizona South. Prior to that, he was a high school teacher for nearly 20 years in Tucson, where he developed and taught Chicano Latino literature classes for the renowned Mexican American Studies program in the Tucson Unified School District. He's an award-winning educator who was recently named one of the top 10 Latinos to watch in U.S. politics by the Huffington Post. And his teachings and work have been featured by many other news and scholarly publications. But I also want to let you know why we asked him to come and speak with you today, and about the impact he's had on so many people in this room. Last semester, a group of English faculty began toying with the idea of bringing someone to speak to our amazing faculty, students, and staff. We wanted to invite someone who was memorable and inspirational, someone who would energize those deeply rooted in academia, as well as those still navigating their educational paths. We wanted someone who would understand our students, their challenges, their dreams, and their realities. The one name that continually came up was Curtis Acosta. For teachers, Dr. Acosta makes concrete that which is often just discussed in the abstract. He reminds us of the importance of the teacher-student relationship and of the potential that we have as educators to change the lives of the students we serve. For students, Dr. Acosta manages to maintain academic rigor in an empowering, liberating educational space. Watching the documentary Precious Knowledge and reading Dr. Acosta's work, it's impossible to not be inspired to want to change one's own pedagogy and approach to education. He makes us want to be better, to do better for our students. And in these increasingly divided political times, the need for this change seems more important than ever. So it's my extreme honor and privilege to introduce to you today Dr. Curtis Acosta.
Wow, that was humbling. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? That's better. Okay, well, thank you for having me, Southwestern College. It's awesome to be here. Did y'all stayed up late watching any of that election? How woke are we in here? Are we woke in here? Are we trying to figure out a new word for woke? We're so woke. All right. Thank you so much to Janelle and also the staff and of course the faculty, the English faculty. Katie, thank you so much for that introduction. It was hella humbling. You could tell I just used hella, so I'm a Bay Area kid. Yeah. Dub Nation, go Warriors. Hey, deal with it. Deal with it. I had to deal with 40 years of pain, so y'all can deal with a little bit of glory right now. Anyways, it's nice to be here. It's a really, I decided after talking, or I didn't decide, Janelle and I were talking a lot about what kind of experience to have today. So we're going to jump into like an academic experience, but one that's like, one I hope that you have some fun with. I think most of the folks that we do this with have a lot of fun with it. But in order to do so, I wanted to thank the interpreters here and any of you folks that are deaf or hard of hearing. Any of the interpreters that are here today, thank you also. If you're, those of you that are interpreting in Spanish, I wish I was better and easier to interpret for. I tend to have a really, I jump around a lot in my train of thought. It makes it really tough on the interpreter folks, so I want to shout them out. I lost my hearing a couple years ago. It was 10 days after I was deposed by the state of Arizona. We sued the state of Arizona to protect our program. In 2010, my colleagues and I filed lawsuit. There was I think 11 of us plaintiffs, teacher plaintiffs, because the state of Arizona passed a law to specifically ban our program. Our program, by the way, that was academically one of the best programs. We found this out later in research that was done after our program was dismantled, was one of the best programs in the history of our country for Latinx, Chicanx youth. So it doesn't make sense if we had those academic outcomes to come after us, but now probably the way the political climate of the country has taken hold, maybe it could make some sense to you, what we were going through many years ago. So it was 2016. It was 10 days after I was deposed. All of a sudden, the hearing in my left ear went out. And they call it sudden hearing loss. And it really, but like my doctor said, it was, could have been worse. You know, I'm 46 years old. At the time, I guess I was 44. And he goes, you know, and that pragmatism, that attitude, I really appreciated. You know, because when you get a certain age, you know, you're like, oh yeah, it could have been worse. Whew, high five. I mean, whew, just, I can keep on trucking, right? I can keep going, you know, because a lot of times the news, as we get older, isn't so good, right? When things like that happen. But it also, I wanted to start today, when I see folks signing, it does something to me now. It makes me, it's another type of humility. I used to feel like when I walked into a room that I was living in Lakesh, right, which is the poem you see here. So in Lakesh is Mayan. If you want to say it, in Lakesh. Yeah, so it's Mayan, and it's interpreted closely in Spanish and English to the idea of tú eres mi otro yo, or you are my other me, you are my other self. There are other, like if you talk to folks that speak Mayan, it gets even deeper than that, right? But Luis Valdez wrote those 5 lines, and we're gonna have fun with those 5 lines in a second. But for nearly 20 years, and as a high school teacher, when I came into the classroom and saw beautiful young people like yourselves, I thought I was like living in Lakesh, really. But there's so much out there you don't know. Like, you couldn't tell that I can't hear out of my left ear. Not unless you started talking to me and I didn't answer. But then you could have misinterpreted that, like, oh, he thinks he's big time, all right? Oh, I see how it is, Dr. Acosta, right? You know, and that's not what it is. It's like I'm not fully abled anymore. So there was 44 years of having, like, a pretty privileged body. And then, boom. And I know, you know, what the doctors told me caused it, but there's another part of me that knows that probably the stress caused it. Probably living this life, fighting for folks like yourselves, because you are me, that might have done it. And let me tell you, if that's the bargain, then it's worth it. Because you're worth it. My students were hella worth it. And so that's okay. But what it did to me is it reminded me of how many times I go to an audience like yourselves, and I don't know all the warriors out there and what they're dealing with. You see, when we walk into a room, many times, we're masking a whole lot of things. We're putting our best selves forward. And sometimes our young ones, you know, like little homie on the block, he puts on that serious dog face. He's like this big, right? He's like tiny, and he's like. There used to be a middle school. There's a middle school across from my old high school that I taught at, and I'd see little homie all the time, and I'd always go, "Hey, what's up, mijo?" And nothing, right? Or maybe eventually I'd poke him enough with the, "What's up, mijo? How you doing?" And like, "What's your business?" And he'd probably say something worse than that. I'm just going to clean it up because, you know, I'm a guest speaker. I mean, like, dang, you know, and I'd smile and I'd still engage with little homie, right? Because that's just a mascara. That's just a mask that he has on to protect himself. And there's so many of us in here today, so many warriors that are dealing with something. And I just want to give you all respect. And I wanted to start with the folks doing some labor right now, some work to interpret my words for a community that means a lot to me personally now since I lost my hearing. But there are other warriors out here too. And we need to start thinking about when we step to somebody, our default setting shouldn't be anything but, I hope that they're healthy and doing well, but I don't know that, but I'm going to respect their human self right now. I'm going to respect anything and all the things that they may be struggling with, that they may be stressing about, that the pain, the physical pain they may be enduring just to hang out with me for 1 second. I got to keep that in my mind. Because I don't know, because y'all look hella cute right now, but I don't know what you're dealing with. I don't. So my default setting needs to be, I need to make sure I honor that. So thank you. Thank you to the folks doing the labor. Thank you to all you warriors that made it here today for us to spend a little bit of time together. So we're going to start by doing something communal, if you don't mind. We're going to read these 5 lines together. We're going to live that thing that I was just saying, right? Like, tú eres mi otro yo. Like, let's really live that life, right? So this is something that the class of 2008, right? So they sound like old people to you now, right? Probably, huh? When would y'all graduate, like high school? 2018. Yeah, wow. Woo! Like yesterday. Yeah, so anyway, so the reality is this 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago, it was 2007, right? It was August 2007, and I remember reading this in the Intro to Zoot Suit, one of my favorite plays of all time that I used to teach to my students back in the day. Zoot Suit by Luis Valdez. Zoot Suit's a badass play that y'all gotta read if you haven't had the chance to read it. It's about SoCal, man. It's about LA. It's about Chicanos. It's about the military. It's about military and Chicanos and Chicanas and Chicanx clashing, right? Because of all of the deficit kind of mindsets and the lack of inakesh that folks had towards one another. It's really apropos to do that work because it was the Navy that boxed with the young ones back in the day during World War II. In that specific, because the Zoot Suit riots is what it's based on. All right? Another Chicanx legal struggle that had to happen, much like the one that my colleagues and I had to go through. Fascinating for a community like yours to read this play. Not only is it close, because LA is just up the road, but it also has some of the dynamics that we have here in this part of the world with the strong military influence of this part of the world, and also the strong history of Chicanx people, indigenous folks in this world. So I digress. This was in the introduction, and I asked my class in 2007, hey, y'all, we want to recite this every day? Because I was just starting to understand about my own indigenous knowledge, like that I come from indigenous people. Like the Mayans are indigenous. It's like, I showed you the W earlier, because that's, I said Williams, right? But it's really west side, right? Western hemisphere, right? I'm not throwing any games about west side, Chula Vista, or whatever. Western hemisphere, right? Our knowledge. Not knowledge from Europe, knowledge from here. That's our knowledge. So we were diving deep into this, and later at the end of today, I'm going to show you some more knowledge that we were diving into. It seemed to rep who we were trying to be, and what we needed to remind ourselves to be in the classroom every day. All right? I specifically asked my students if they wanted to read this every day because of one word in that poem. What's the word? Guess. Respect. I can't hear. I told you it's hard. Huh? Respect. Nah, that's a good word though. Huh? Love. I wanted, all your guesses were good though. But for me, it was love. I wanted to explicitly every day look in my students' eyes and tell them I love them and have them recite back, if they were down for it, the same, that they love me. That we were about a love project. That learning is about being human. And being human should all be centered on love and respect and all the other humility, empathy, all the things that come embedded in this quote. This poem. And my students were like, yeah, we're down for that. We're going to read that every day. So, in order to get us started, I would invite you to get in where you fit in. Right? If you'd like to read this with me, this is what we're going to do it. I'm going to read in Lakesh, and then we're going to start from Spanish to English, right? We're going to read it together, chorally as a community, but we ain't there yet. Who's that? All right, who else is it? Nah, she's actually not in there. Dolores isn't in there. That's a good guess, though. I guessed it, too, when I first saw it. A flag, good. Who said that? Yeah, I tricked you. I did that mean-ass teacher trick. I'm like, who else? I don't know the names of folks in there. I don't know the name of the folks in there, right? But they're folks. Just like Cesar's a folk. But we all know Cesar's name. It's because we've reduced the struggle down to Cesar. Not that Cesar shouldn't have all the props for being an amazing hero. But you also heard that one of the names of the heroes, Dolores Huerta, she's not in that picture, and I'm glad her name came up right away, because it was more than just Cesar. It was people, right? And it was flags. It was a movement. United Farm Worker flag, I heard someone say. Excellent. How are they acting right now? Peaceful? Look at their faces. What do you see? Huh? Happy, right? They're laughing. What are they doing? Those of you that may know some of the historical context behind the United Farm Workers movement. They're what? They're protesting? What's the word huelga mean? Strike. Good job, mijo. This is what it looks like to struggle for justice. And let me tell you how many times that this is it's the narrative of joy that drove me every day to continue to work with my students, for our students to continue to work and push. Because I wasn't just doing this alone either, right? There's many of us trying to fight and protect something beautiful. And it's joyful work. So sometimes we get caught up in narratives and pain. It's not. It can be beautiful work. And look, they're so beautiful. There's babies there. There's a man holding a baby. Can you see that? Took me forever to figure that out, man. It's like, where's Waldo? I can't do those 3D images either. So my good friend Carlos Hagedorn, who teaches in Napa, He teaches the Legacy Youth Project, came up with the term heart work, right? He's like, yeah, there's a man holding a baby, and think about that in a protest. Think about that being what we do. And I'm like, where is that baby? I don't see no baby. That looks like it's groceries or something. There's a baby, there's viejitas, there's men holding babies, which, I mean, we're taking care of all sorts of stereotypes here. It takes a community to do this work. And it's a joyful thing for us to work with each other in solidarity and love. Anybody recognize who's with Cesar right there? Who's being honored? All right, there you go. That's kind of cheating over there, Henry. But good job, Henry. Larry Eatlong. Can we all say Larry Eatlong? So Larry Eatlong, does any young, well, you're young to me, Henry, but do any students know who Larry Eatlong may have been? Okay, so Larry Eatlong was a Filipino activist that was actually the first person to organize the strikes in the Central Valley that became the human rights action of the United Farm Workers movement and the Chicano movement. Came from Larry Eatlong, Pinay Pinoy community, the Filipino community. But again, sometimes we forget, because we reduce it down to Cesar, that there were more people than that. So we want to always remind ourselves of those who came before us, right? How important it was to have that intersection, solidarity, working together. And who's that? We already mentioned her. That's Dolores Huerta. So women, she was a partner with Cesar. She wasn't Cesar's secretary nor his girlfriend. Like the folks that came after our program dismissed her accomplishments, calling her Cesar Chavez's girlfriend. Yeah. It made me furious. No, she was her own hero in this movement, and she's still with us, right? We're lucky to still have Dolores with us. So it's important to remember that women, powerful women, were leading this movement. She was the one they sent in to do the negotiating with the farmers because she was the toughest one. Cesar did his job, Dolores would do hers. When the rich farmers were looking to hustle the union members, Dolores wasn't going to have it. So when you put all those folks in a room together, language can be an issue. Anybody speak Tagalog? Anybody, do you know what this says by any chance? Or what it means? What does it mean? We all fall. We all fall. Ow, you gave me the figurative answer. Mijo, nice job. So as I've been taught by your ancestors, by folks that know the knowledge of your ancestors, I've been taught that as well. I've also been taught that at first it means literally one down. All right? One down. But it means we all fall. Or, as you can see here, things can't get done if people don't communicate and work together. So there's these figurative, 4 syllables can mean all this kind of movement type of work, this spiritual kind of work, this human kind of work, all right? So Isang Bagsak means we all must do this together. And if we don't, we'll fall, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to honor our ancestors, right? The folks that gave us this space by starting with the unity clap. Y'all know the unity clap? You start slow, like it's supposed to symbolize a heartbeat. Some of you may have done it before. You played a football or basketball game. Yeah. Like that? Okay, we're going to do that. Then I'm going to yell out, Isang Bagsak, unless you want to do it. Do you want to yell it out? Yeah, all right. What's your name, mijo?
Jared.
What's that? Jared? Yeah. All right. So Jared's going to yell it out. All right? So you do it whenever you want. Now, you have 3 choices after he says Isang Bagsak, right? You got to do it loud, right? So you can either clap in unison, stomp, or throw a grito. What's a grito? No, model it. What's a grito? Yeah, there you go. I heard some. All right, good. And sometimes it's a little early for a grito. I understand. And we're not going to vote right now. Like, okay, how many gritos? 1, 2. I'm counting gritos. Now, we're not going to do that. Once you hear you sound by sock, we just clap, stomp, or you yell. It's up to you, all right? So we start with the unity clap, and then Jared's going to say, Islam! All right? You got to feel it. Y'all ready? Okay, after that, hold on, we're not there yet. After that, you're going to hear me say En Lakesh. That's going to be an alert to you that we're going to start reading from Spanish to English, across. Tu eres mi otro yo, you are my other me. We're going to read all 5 lines. Now check this out. Some of you in here have never said some of these words out loud before. That's cool. Some of you in here are like amazing bilingues, right? You're like milagros, like I got this. And you're going to be like, right? This isn't the time to flex your bilingual muscle. You are not turning in your test so you can swag back to your desk showing everybody that you got it and we suck. All right? That's not what this is intention. The intention behind this is community, collective, family. So that means you got to think about the person that may be saying it's Daniel, got it, Daniel, for the first time. Or maybe you're saying the word respect out loud for the first time, because there's plenty of folks in here that are working on that language too, and plenty of folks like me that stink in both of them. Just sorry in both English and Spanish. All right? So we all have to do this together. So we got to listen to each other and ride that wave. All right? So in other words, you got to practice En Lakesh while you read it. You got to think of your other me while you read it. It ain't about you. It's about us. So that's that Jedi teacher mind trick stuff right there. Yeah. All right, y'all ready? Oh, y'all ain't ready. Y'all ready? There we go. All right, here we go. En Lakesh, tú eres y otro. Beautiful. Isn't that a nice way to start the day? So now we just started, right? Now we just barely started the workshop. Okay, so for those of you that may not know anything about that early struggle I was talking about that we went through, I decided that I'd share a little bit of a trailer of precious knowledge so that give you some context for where we were at. What it was like to go to school every day as a teacher in the context that we had. Here you go.
You pick up a history book and you don't really see any other cultures in there but Caucasian, white people.
We were like the Mexicans sitting in the back, just sitting there because we had to be there. I had a teacher that would tell me like, oh, you're not going to go to college.
The way things were going, I probably just left school. I'm not going to lie, I hated education.
Everybody knew that the school system was discriminatory. There was an urgency for us to make a statement. We're going to push the envelope a little further.
Morning, you looking for M215? Yes, sir. That's my class. I'm Mr. Acosta. It was really about how can we turn this around? How do we fix societal problems in our school?
This class is based on critical thinking, and in that does come empowerment.
I actually know my history now.
I started getting A's and B's.
Our students are graduating at a much higher rate. Our kids are going to college at a much higher rate.
State School Superintendent Tom Horn wants to end ethnic studies programs.
I'm calling on Tucson Unified School District to shut down the ethnic studies program.
The role of my tax dollars to promote teaching of hate speech, sedition.
The program is administered by vehemently anti-American zealots.
No matter how far this bill goes, we're here together in the lucha.
We believe it's a matter of life and death.
they try to take these classes away, it's something impossible.
idea that race is no longer an issue, what we're saying is BS. You want different culture, go back to that culture. This is America.
Get away from my border!
It's about the freedom to ask the questions that are the most pertinent in the way they view the world.
When you have students demonstrating wearing brown shirts, bandanas, this is serious.
That last quote from that they have in there, the last person you hear is, her name is Margaret Dugan. She grew up Margaret Garcia, but for political purposes, when she ran for office in Arizona, transformed to Margaret Dugan. Anyway, so Margaret Garcia Dugan said, when students are wearing brown shirts and bandanas, you know it's serious. Now, it is our job as educators to hope that you become a much more critical person than that as you grow up. I mean, how ridiculous is that? Like, okay, now you know, when you come to Arizona, don't pack any brown shirts or don't bring any of these things either. You might get got, right? Because, I mean, you are obviously part of some crazy militancy because one can't just use it like I did right now to wipe off my sweat. All right? And she wasn't talking about la vida loca either. She was talking about like the idea of brown supremacy, all right? The idea of militancy, which is, craziness, right? So hopefully our job is to make sure that you are more critical than to ever say something like that out loud, especially when you're a person that is assistant superintendent of public instruction. That even makes it more ridiculous, like she was. So we're going to jump into some work together, all right? So that was a little bit about the context of the way we were, what we had to deal with. Going to school every day. But what was the actual work like? So Janelle was really clear about what the good things that are happening on this campus. So I wanted to make sure that we did something together where I'm not just up here talking about my experiences and y'all are trying to connect to it, all right? Or I'm trying to connect to you. We decided let's dive into some work together where we're going to take this space and turn it into a more interactive space. So we're going to work in groups. So wherever you are right now, you're going to try to group up in about sixes, all right? Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. It's up to y'all, all right? But we have some examples of literature that either I used to read in my class or literature and or media that I would love to have taught if I was allowed to have kept being able to keep teaching what I was teaching, all right, before our classes were dismantled. So these are the kind of prompts that I would give my students, all right? So name the social injustices, oppressive experiences, or conditions that are revealed in the example. And this is what you're going to be doing. Don't worry, I'm going to show you some of these examples in a second, and then I'm going to leave the prompts up here for you. And we don't have enough time for you to dig into all three because this could be a 4-hour workshop. It sometimes is. That's my favorite because we can really dig into this in levels. But we have about an hour left, a little less, so we're just going to dive into any one of these. So, right, there's the first one, is naming those injustices, oppressive experiences, or conditions. The other thing is to reflect upon your own experiences in regard to the literature and the discriminatory themes you identified. Now, I use the term literature loosely. You're going to see some music in a second. You're going to hear some music in a second. But that's what I'm talking about, music as well. And then what are the hegemonic factors that contribute to these injustices? All right, and I'll go over these prompts again after I show you your choices. Now, you're going to have to go over wherever Janelle's at. Eventually, there's Janelle over there in the back, and pick one of these and work together, all right? Or no, we have a couple of different spots. Okay, cool. We have different spots. After you, we'll put our hands up before I say go, but I'm going to introduce all of them to you. Have one or two in mind. So this is what's going to happen. I'm going to read all of these examples, or parts of them, and then you're going to circle up in your group with the homies, your scholarly homies, and you're going to okay, these are our top two. Go get one of those damn examples. Because what might happen is somebody beats you to it, so you got to be ready, all right? And I'm not here about it's not fair. I don't care. All right? You got to deal with that. You got to navigate these obstacles in your life right now. right? This is the way life can be sometimes. We gotta be inventos. We gotta figure it out, all right? So you're gonna have to figure it out. Maybe you just send somebody up, you're like, hey, get this one. I don't know. All different ways to do this. All right, so here we go. One of the examples that we have here is from Woman Hollering Creek. And I'll just read it to you for time's sake. So this is by Sandra Cisneros, right? The first time she had been so surprised she didn't cry out or try to defend herself. She had always said she would strike back if any man were to strike her. But when the moment came and he slapped her once and then again and again until the lips split and bled an orchid of blood, she didn't fight back. She didn't break into tears. She didn't run away as she imagined she might when she saw such things in the telenovelas. She could think of nothing to say, said nothing, just stroked the dark curls of the man who wept and would weep like a child, his tears of repentance and shame, this time and each. All right, so that's one of your choices. Here's another choice. This is Early by Run the Jewels. I'm just going to play a little bit of it. Anybody know Run the Jewels? Okay, a couple folks. This is one of my favorite hip-hop groups. So I'm going to show you this video real quick. Just real quick, though. So.
Every day I'm in a fight for the soul. Could it be that my medicine's the evidence of people stop and frisk me when they rolling around on patrol? And ask why you're here. I just tell them cause it is what it is. I live here and that's what it is. Each time you got a dime, I say, man, I'm trying to smoke and chill. Please don't lock me up in front of my kid. And in front of my wife, man, they ain't got a gun and a knife. You do this and you ruin my life. And I apologize if it seems like I got out of line, sir, cause I respect the badge and the gun. And I pray the day ain't the day that you drag me away right in front of my beautiful son. And they still put my hands in cuff, put me in the truck when my woman scream said shut up. Witness when the camera called on, saw the copper pull a gun and put it on my gorgeous queen. As I peered out the window, I could see by all the tempo can hear my little boys scream. As he ran toward the top of it, but not to hurt his mama, cause he had her face down on the ground. And I'd be much too weak to ever see what I seen, but my life changed with that sound.
All right, so that's one example. That's Run the Jewels. If you're into that, you can dial it up on your phone and check it out. Let me get back to the keynote. All right, so instead of reading that to you, I let them spit it. Here's another poem by Pat Mora. I'll just read a little bit of each stanza, right? Part 1 and part 2. Let's play La Migra. I'll be the border patrol, you be the Mexican maid. I get the badge and sunglasses. You can hide and run, but you can't get away because I have a Jeep. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Number 2, let's play La Migra. You be the border patrol, I'll be the Mexican woman. Your Jeep has a flat, and you've been spotted by the sun. All right, it gets a little deeper than that, y'all, but that's another choice, right? That's another choice. Here's an example from Lakota Woman by Mary Bravebird. One man, a Chippewa, stood up and made a speech. I had never heard anybody talk like that. He spoke about genocide and sovereignty, about tribal leaders selling out and kissing ass, white man's ass. He talked about giving up the necktie for the choker, the briefcase for the bedroll, the missionaries' church for the sacred pipe. He talked about not celebrating Thanksgiving because he would be celebrating one's own destruction. Okay, the selections you have are a little bit longer than these. And then I have My Dungeon Shook by James Baldwin. All right? This innocent country set you down in a ghetto in which in fact it intended that you should perish. Let me spell out precisely what I mean by that, for the heart of the matter is here in the crux of my dispute with my country. You were born where you were born and faced the future that you faced because you were black and for no other reason. The limits to your ambition were thus expected to be settled. You were born into a society which spelled out with brutal clarity and in as many ways as possible that you were a worthless human being. All right, and then have a couple more songs. This one's Bad Religion by Frank Ocean. All right. How many of y'all know this song? All right, good. Then I don't have to sing it. Taxi driver, be my shrink for an hour. Leave the meter running, it's rush hour. So take the streets if you want to. Just outrun the demons, could you? He said, Allahu Akbar. I told him, don't curse me. Bobo, you need prayer. I guess it couldn't hurt me. If it brings me to my knees, it's a bad religion. This unrequited love, to me, it's nothing but a one-man cult and cyanide in my styrofoam cup. I could never make him love me, never make him love me, and a whole lot more love me's. For the sake of time, well, maybe I can play this one. I think I have this one dialed up. Pink by Janelle Monáe. Yeah, I got this one ready to go. Can you hear it? How many of y'all know this one?
Like the inside of your baby ink behind all of the doors. Crazy pink like the tongue that goes down. Maybe pink like the paradise view. Pink when you're blushing inside. Baby pink is the truth you can't hide. Maybe pink like the folds of your brow. Crazy pink as we all go insane. So here we are in the car.
All right, so that's that one. You can check that one out. I would check out the video. It's good. Oh, y'all have seen it. I do that one with teachers, man. It's fun. Like high school teachers. Yeah, let me get to that. So this is a poem by Nikki Giovanni called All Eyes on You. I'll read a little bit of it. There are those who wanted to make him the problem, who wanted to believe that if they silenced Tupac, all would be quiet on the ghetto front. There are those who testify that the problem wasn't the conditions, but the people talking about them. They took away band, so the boys started scratching. They took away gym, so the boys started breakdancing. The boys started, there are those who wanted, oh man, I got all treckle. But the people talking, oh man, what happened? So the boys started scratching. They took away gym, so I got it right here. Can you see it? Is it right to you? Maybe. Mine's jacked up. So the boys started scratching. They took away gym. The boys started dancing. The boys started, oh yeah, it is all just messed up. It's because I'm going back and forth. Did it fix itself? Yeah, there we go. So the boys started breakdancing, the boys started dancing, the boys started rapping because they gave them the guns and the drugs, but not the schools and the libraries. What a beautiful boy to lose. And we mourn Tupac Shakur, and we reach out to his mother. And we hung ourselves in sadness and shame, and we are compelled to ask, are you happy, Ms. Tucker? Tupac is gone, are you happy? So, again, you're going to choose one of these examples, and then I gave you the definition there to hegemony. I usually use that as kind of a way to test whether or not you and I are practicing in Lakesh, because I usually say, are there any words here that you may not understand? And every place that I do this, they all should go, what is hegemony? Right? But they don't. Sometimes they front. Especially when I do this with professional development with teachers. Because teachers don't want to be like, hey, I don't know what a word means. But really, if we're trying to learn together, it should be okay for us to go, I don't know what a word means. It doesn't matter if you're younger than me or older than me. You know words I don't know. I know words you don't know. That's okay. But somehow we get in these institutions and we get all nervous and weird, and we put those mascaras back on. We put those masks back on. We try to front. And if we really want humanizing education, if we really want to learn and listen to one another, we got to drop all that. We got to be safe together. We got to practice that in Lakesh. And you can say, I don't know what that word means. And I can go, that's cool because I know you're smart. But that's what that word means. All right? So, get in your groups. Right? Start grouping up right now. Come on. And then you're going to go find some of the folks that have the examples standing up and go find an example to break down for the next 15 minutes. It's madness. It was hard to hear him, huh? That's okay. You did good, Jared. So we have about 25 minutes left. So there's a couple things we can do. One idea I had was that you share with another group what you learn. All right? The other idea, so this is going to be like a choose your own adventure. The other idea is I can go back to explaining a little bit why we did this stuff and how we did it in Mexican American Studies. And then hopefully, and then the other piece would be to make sure that I had time for Q&A with you all. So we have to pick either one or the other. Either we share with each other, or I talk a little bit about the context of having this type of education. Either way, we got to have some Q&A time so that you all can have a rich dialogue. We can have a rich dialogue. Which one? Number one, which is you share with each other, or number two, I take over from here. A lot of twos. All right, I got you. In a perfect world, I would have time for all of it, right? So I always try to slam these things as tightly as possible with as much content and much interaction, much fun. Because it's hard. It's really hard to try to encapsulate meeting a group of folks, introduce yourself, asking y'all to open up to one another, right? And in a limited amount of time and getting deep. But you did it. I was able to, even with my bum hearing, I was still able to hear some of your conversations. Thanks for doing that. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to introduce you to a little bit more of this indigenous knowledge, right? This West Side knowledge, this Western Hemisphere knowledge. So Inakdash was huge because it kind of gave us, and I may talk a little bit about it in a second, so I won't talk too much about it, but it gave us the right environment, right? The right climate, the right goal for interaction with one another. Teacher to student, student to students, teacher to class. So there's 3 different relationships going on simultaneously all the time in a classroom, right? In general. There's me to the big group that we all get along with this persona, the teacher. Then there's me and you, individually, because I know where you're at. I should. That's my job. That's not my job, it's my passion. That's doing it correctly. Me and a maestra, a maestro, doing it correctly is knowing who you are, where I got to take you next, because it's different than the person sitting next to you. But I'm going to get you both up on that next step, no matter what. And then the third relationship that we often forget about is you all have to get along. So I've been in classrooms where everybody, now I go around and I get to visit classrooms because I work with some of the teachers in the school districts I work with. And I see that's a slamming teacher. He's really, or she's amazing. She's rocking it up there. Oh, they really like her individually. They like her collectively. But I notice that they don't know each other in the classroom. I notice that there's little cliques, right? There's little groups that are much more comfortable with each other than as they walk in, you can tell. I noticed that there's some young ones in the back, not here, right? Sorry, young ones in the back. No, I'm not talking about you. I'm not spotlighting. I noticed there's some folks on the sides, on the back, that they don't feel a part of all the action. I only hear 4 voices in the class, but everybody seems to be enjoying it, kind of. And then I go to other classrooms, and I remember the experiences I had with my classroom, where everybody's cool with everybody. And it didn't matter, I shouldn't say it didn't matter. It really mattered who you were. Ethnically, it really mattered who you were about your identity. It really mattered who you were about your sexual orientation. All that really mattered because I loved all those parts of you. I love all those parts of you. So I got to see all those parts of you. And when students do that with one another, because students can often do it better than teachers can, that's the thing that we got to grow. But then there's other spaces where we don't do that at all. So that's that in-lakesh. That's that in-lakesh. But there's other knowledge up here that you see right here. Anybody recognize the center, the image in the center? Where have you seen that before? Right. It's the tonomacho, right? Which is the center. This one's actually the center of the tonomacho is Nahuatl. It's the sunstone, right? The calendario. That's the calendar. And Nahuatl it's called tonomacho. And forgive my bad Nahuatl. For those of you that know Nahuatl out there laughing at me. My bad language, my bad accent. In the center of the tonomacho is the Nahui Olim. Nahui means 4 in Nahuatl. And Olim means movement. Kind of like Isang Bagsak means we all have to do this stuff together, we all fall, we all rise together, we all fall together. It means something bigger than one thing to accomplish, one thing down, one down. The same thing with the Nahui Olim, right? Olim movement means something different in Nahuatl. It means like when the plates shift in our state here, right? When those plates shift, we feel it. That's that kind of movement. Or when you're in the ocean and you mistime the wave, it's that one wave. That one wave that humbles you. How many of you have been humbled by that wave where you're underwater and you're like, I am going to die? I have no idea where up is, and up is where I survive, because up is where I can breathe. This is going to be bad. But somehow you made it out. Good for you. But I'm a California kid too. I know I've been humbled that way. That's this kind of movement. It's a movement way bigger and more powerful than just oh, you can move. Oh, he moved his hair, right? So the Nahui Olim, the 4 movements, right? In Nahuatl, Tezcatlipoca, Quetzalcoatl, Huitzilopochtli, Xipetotec. And what these mean, what these are translated to, and I don't have enough time to totally dive into them, is self-reflection, precious and beautiful knowledge, the will to act, and transformation. So our ancestors on these continents, right? How many of you were born in North America? Raise your hand. You were born in North America? Okay. How many of you born on planet Earth? Planet Earth people. Yeah, some people say, there's some things that don't raise their hand. It's crazy. I've already discovered extraterrestrials, and because every time I do that, somebody goes, no, I'm not from here. Which is good, man. Folks from not Earth, that were not born on Earth are really honest. So we really don't have to worry about, any of those aggressive movies we've seen. So anyway, this is your knowledge. This is human knowledge, because the Mexica weren't talking about the Aztecs. They called themselves Mexica. The Mexica weren't using this for a pedagogical framework for the 21st century Chicanx literature class that Acosta teaches, right? This is human stuff. They're trying to tell us, right? And reaching back into this and learning from our elders, they're trying to tell us how to be better humans. So as a teacher, my colleagues and I as teachers, we try to figure out how to have more human classrooms by diving into this decolonial knowledge. This is before colonization. This is from the root. Not to say, for the historians out there, that the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Toltecs, that they were all perfect people. That's not what we're saying. But this knowledge we can build off of. This is good stuff that we shouldn't have to, that we should know, that we shouldn't hide, that we shouldn't be ignorant to, that we had this knowledge. Because maybe we can be better because that's what they wanted for us. So that's what we try to do in the classroom. So immediately when I learned this, y'all, I was already kind of doing really well in the classroom, but I knew when I saw this, I didn't have a human classroom because I was missing one element. Which element do you think was the hardest for me? Which one? I had two of them going and maybe a third, but one, I was like, nope, don't have it. Now, self-reflection I was good at. What's that? One at a time. Louder. Transformation. No, I can kind of see him changing. Huh? The will to act? I was horrible at that. Like, what's that mean? Like, that should be a goal of ours with youth? Duh. Acting in the world? Of course. Why are you learning something if you're not going to use it? See, I became a teacher before No Child Left Behind, right? Which was at the beginning of high state standardized tests to pass, to graduate. And they used to, they beat us over the head, put objectives on the board. I'm like, yo, I ain't doing that. My objective is to learn. My objective is bigger than your objective. And I was arrogant. I was an arrogant young person, but arrogant with righteousness, and I had to be smart. Because you can't just be arrogant stupid. Because you get got if you arrogant stupid. But I really meant, I wanted my students to understand what they were learning, not the objective of my lesson. And I would tell that to people when they came in. I'm like, hey. They're like, well, they don't know the objective. Ask them what they're learning. Well, they know that. There you go. Now, I just heard a couple years, about last year, from a superintendent friend of mine in Tucson, they're finally going back to that. I'm like, go figure. Now the new thing is we're asking students what they're learning. I'm like, oh, that is just revolutionary. You mean instead of reading something on the board and quizzing them on it, something from the teacher, we're going to actually ask the students what they're learning? Whoa! Mind blown! Emoji. So, it's simple, right? When I started thinking about the will to act, when I started understanding the Nahualin, I knew I wasn't asking my students to act upon the world with the knowledge they had. I was asking them to write an essay. And that's action, in some way. It's not the action I think that our ancestors were asking for. They were looking for how are you impacting the world? How are you using this out there? Now, it may start with an essay, it may start with a presentation, it may start with some of these things, it may start just pair share. That's action. Especially if you've hated school your whole life and you're like, this guy's kind of cool, I'm going to actually do this class a little bit. And I understand that because my students were my real bosses. My students were my real interviews. Like, if I didn't engage them, I sucked. I didn't have to have my principal tell me anything. I knew. So I had to hook everybody, right? So if somebody was taking a risk and the first act for them was actually to engage in the content for the first time, maybe since they were in kindergarten, back when school felt good to them, that was good. But we're still going to get that young person the skills they need to be successful in college. Now, it's going to be a fast ride to get there. When we're talking about 11th, 12th grade, we got to go fast. We got to start with, do you trust me? Good. Now we're going fast. Because you're good. You're smart. This stuff matters, right? They're like, yeah, this stuff matters because I actually like this stuff. Good. Let's go fast now. Let's go fast. And then sometimes when we go too fast, I back it off because I didn't want to lose them. That's the art of teaching. But I knew right away that an essay wasn't going to do it. So it became pretty obvious to me that my students were leaving their education when I saw it in the community, when I saw them organizing, when I saw them presenting to each other. That wasn't content that was important to them that was never asked of them in our classrooms. So they were doing presentations to each other in school without any points. Can you believe it? No, it wasn't based on an assignment. No points given. It was just like, hey, ice is rolling too. We know our rights. That class doesn't know anything because they have that teacher. We all know that teacher. So how do we get that information to them? Well, kind of the same way we do information in here. We share with each other. Why don't you share with them? Okay, can you give us some space? Yeah, I'll go sign up lecture spaces and big spaces for y'all to do that work. Auditoriums, assemblies, whatever. Sometimes it'd be like, all of a sudden I'd learn about it in a flyer. What are you doing this? How come I wasn't invited? Oh, you're busy. You got grad school on Wednesdays. We know that. Get out of it. Why are you talking to you right now? That's how it was. Like real colleagues, my students are colleagues. They were busy acting upon the will, knowing, sharing their knowledge. That's when it was working. So there's some teacher tricks I do with the actual assignment though, because you tell that to like teachers, and sometimes they're like, yes, I want to do that, and then they give them the keys to the car, and they wrap it around the telephone pole because they need some scaffolding. Teachers, they don't know how to get there. How do we get to that action? How do we get to that civic engagement? It doesn't just happen overnight. So I'm like, well, you got to groom it. You got to cultivate it. So one of the things that we would do is just get people up off of their seats. Now, we don't have time to do this. That's why I said it would be fun to do this over 4 hours. Because you would take whatever issue that you were studying, and you're obviously like analyzing it to your own world. And then I go, good, write a skit. Perform a skit about the issue that was in the literature that y'all were talking about, but it's from your lived experiences. It's what's happening in the world now. So now we can take James Baldwin, who was writing in the 60s, and make him alive now, because his words live now, and they mean something to us. All right? We can take anybody, as we're talking about these critical issues that still impact us, still impact our communities, and we can live it. And that's how you know when your students get it. And it's fun, no? It's stupid, right? Doing little like Saturday Night Live skits about like all sorts of like deep stuff. Yeah, it's cool. And then you like do like the bigger work, right? Which is like, well, we don't have a lecture here. Or we don't have a Chicano studies class, or we don't have a Chicanics literature class. We don't have Latinx literature. We don't have African American literature. We don't have Native American literature. Okay, well, let's find an oppressive experience you're talking about, and how are you going to develop a plan? Let's go in class. In one of the pieces I wrote a long time ago, I called them social justice. I thought our classes were social justice laboratories. So you know how you have lab and biology class, you're all around that table with the sink? Well, we need a class where we're like, hey, instead of dissecting the fetal pig or the frog or whatever we have to cut open, which used to gross me out because there's some dead thing on my damn table, why don't we dissect the parts of America that are sick? The parts of our communities that aren't working. That just makes sense. It makes sense if you want to change that. And it makes sense that people don't want us to have classes like that who don't want it to change. That's when it all makes sense. So that's who we were. I love this picture because this is what we were like. Just like you were, you're loud and you're doing this, well, we were also this too. Look how boring it is to be in my classroom. This is a bunch of Mexicans writing. I used to joke, like they should put plexiglass in front of one of our walls, like they do at the San Diego Zoo, so you can watch the pandas, watch the Mexicans. Look, Mexicanists, rightists, criticalists, right? I had tons of visitors, yo. That's why I love that. So just showing you a little bit before we get to the Q&A part. This is what we were based on. We were based on these understandings. This idea of funds of knowledge, that we come from communities that have its own wealth. We have our own knowledge that aren't inside of our schools. And that's what my profe Luis Moore wrote here. The goal then is to facilitate new ways of perceiving and discussing students, not only as individuals, but also situated or embedded with a broader educational ecology. So that's us. Educational ecology. Like a whole different ecosystem of education that we have now. The ecosystem, the ecology that we've had for students has proven to fail so many of us in this room. We have mounds and tons of data that says that. So we got to figure out something new. And our elders already knew that. They knew that some of these texts were ways to engage our youth, but we didn't get them, a lot of these texts, until we were in college. You may have been reading some of these now for the first time. You never got them until now. Maybe some of you still haven't taken the class where you're going to be able to read these different perspectives. And although we were Chicano-centric, Chicanx, we would say now, centric, we also were doing Cornell West. We also were doing Howard Zinn because we had to build an understanding and learn from others who had a similar knowledge had knowledge, like similar experiences, knowledge from them about how we may transform our situation. It makes no sense just to like, okay, well, it's not Latino, so we're not reading it. That doesn't make sense. I used to teach Shakespeare. People are like, how do you teach Shakespeare in a Latinx literature class? I'm like, oh, I figure a bunch of Latinos are reading it, then it's Latino literature. It makes its own perverse sense, huh? I'm gonna end with these last things. See that big dude behind me right there? That's one of the smartest dudes I know. That's Sean Arce, soon to be Dr. Sean Arce. He wrote this, right? He was the director of Mexican American Studies. He was my number one camarada, my compañero. He taught the history, I taught the English when we first got started. We were our first partners together. We had all of Vato Locos, those were our favorite. Chola literature. That was the best, right? Then the other Chicanx Foothills kids learned about us, and then they took our classes too. The ones that school worked for them. So then we had this crazy mix of school that didn't work for some and worked for others, and we had to make sense of that carpiotada. But this is what he wrote. This is something I want to leave you with before y'all ask me some questions. Fundamental to the role of the teacher, what the Nahuatl peoples call temachtiani, is that they possess an isli yolot, a face, a heart, a concept that Chavez Leva describes as central to Mesoamerican education and philosophy. To develop a strong face and heart was to acquire intellect, morality, and a sense of community responsibility. So those are our values. That's that educational ecology. That's that ecosystem. It matters to you in a classroom like ours because we're talking about the truths, the real lives, and the real histories and the real experiences that you've been through, your ancestors have been through, and what possibly those to follow are going to go through, unless we transform them. But we do it through having a face and a heart. It's not about getting a degree so I can be rich. It's having the understanding that in Lakesh means it's a principle for why we should interrogate the world, but also how we should interrogate the world. I do my work as much for you as I do for me. Sometimes more. And I would want the reciprocal for you to do the same with me. And if we did that, y'all, we'd be in a whole lot different place in this country. So we're going to do it. One classroom at a time. One experience at a time. All right, so I got 5 minutes left. So who's got questions?
Yeah, this one. Sorry, it's on the spot, but this came up with me when you mentioned like knowledges of Mesoamerica, but I wondered also, like, would you also include like the other like indigenous peoples of Mexico, like the Huichol and the Yacu, and also in other U.S. territories like the Comanche, Zuni, and Kumeyaay, and Apache? I sort of wondered that, but I love what you're doing.
Yeah, one of the things is everybody, when you look at a person like myself, you think it's a finished product. And that's an excellent question, because the more I learn, everything I learned from these beginning steps. For instance, I do a lot of work in South Dakota now with the Lakota people. And I work really humbly because I don't know nothing up there, right? I ain't no expert in nothing. And I sit at the knee and learn from them. And I see so many things that we have in common. So I'm still in the process of learning about all the indigenous wisdoms that there are, all the cultures that you were talking about, all the histories. I don't know all that, man. I was good at not good. I struggled actually with literature classes when I was young. I think that was made me a better teacher. But I love stories. But stories have to be contextualized. And so we gotta historicize them. We gotta know them deeply. So to answer your question, I'm still in the process of learning. You will be my teacher because of the knowledge you just dropped. Like, I don't know half of that. So that's a beautiful thing, and that's the way our classroom should be. Where somebody in my classroom, if they had a deep knowledge like you, we would be able to lean on it. If you saw the intersection between the Maya, the Mexica, and other indigenous populations in Mesoamerica, now we're talking. There's one over, yeah.
Hi, so I was wondering, the last I read about your program, can you hear? The last I read about your program, the judge in December 2017, or at least that's when I read the article, said the ban on your program was a violation of the First and 14th Amendments.
Yes.
And the superintendent, the new superintendent, said they were going to decide what to do. So my question is, has your program returned to Tucson Unified?
Well, so in case you didn't hear, like eventually we were victorious. In 2017, in August, July and August, last week of June and July, but we found out in August that after 7 years of legal battles, we won, and we found out those, yeah, that's a big deal. So the reason why it's a big deal is because there's not a lot of educational precedent in law. So we don't have a lot of legal precedent in education, rather. So now our victory will shield all these beautiful programs that are sprouting up all over the nation, especially here in California, which was a lot of pressure before we won to be a witness on that case, knowing that if we lost, we were probably giving folks a game plan or to decimate all these beautiful programs that were happening. But we won, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. One of the deep sacrifices that a handful of us had is we've been pretty much excommunicated from Tucson. I can't really work there anymore. I haven't been able to work there in a long time because unfortunately some folks decided to work at the, what is it in Game of Thrones? Bend the knee? So I had former colleagues of mine that bent the knee to white supremacists, racist educators, racist superintendent of public instruction and attorney general, who we got on the stand this last summer and exposed and won in federal court. That they had racial animus against Mexican-American students as the purpose of coming after us. Well, unfortunately, in that gap of time, plenty of folks started to try to rebuild under the parameters of those racist politicians. And so, no, our program will never come back because they've already started a program, they told us. And they did. They started a program that would satisfy the folks that were found to be racist. So now what do? You have an entire group of, a section of our community, a lot of folks of Chicano descent, Mexican descent, that have already started rebuilding something. But it's not what we did. And now we're in inconvenient truth because we won. So there was a lot of, there was a couple explosions of what do we do now at home, but it became very apparent that home still wanted nothing to do with us even after justice. And that's a sacrifice y'all have to make. This stuff doesn't just happen, right? Things like the ear. Sometimes you have to give for justice to prevail. And in this case, my hometown's it's not really my hometown anymore. I don't feel comfortable there. I feel a lot more comfortable here. And that's sad. But it's okay. It's okay. Because that's what we got to do. There's a Mexica concept, we can end on this one. You should live every day in honor of the 7 generations that came before you and for the 7 generations to follow. And I try to live that every day. And I don't judge others that don't, because that's a waste of my time. What I'm trying to do is push us towards a place where a generation doesn't have to experience what we experience. A generation doesn't have to be blackballed from their own town. Yes.
I would like to address this. I complimented you on how you teach. I don't know if you saw it or not, but to the gentleman speaking about the different indigenous people, Mesoamerica. I love that he had Mesoamerica up there because it teaches not only, and he brought up the Olmecs, the Toltecs, the Mayans, and the Aztecs. They were more than just the Aztecs. We are even pre-Olmeca. And Palenque, which we brought up, more women who were warriors, queens who led. And Palenque in 2014, they found 3 royal tombs. You can find the books in the library to find new research on more Mesoamerica information to empower you. And as far as the Supreme Court issue, if they do not abide by it, then the people who actually had the ruling overturned can then file a lawsuit for the violation of not proceeding with what was stated. There's always recourse, and that's the greatest thing, because he brought up now that there is precedent, and once there is a precedent, other people can use that. That is like having your own amendment title. There's a precedent, and you can always use it as a map to success. Use his example, watch Precious Knowledge, anything like that. It gives you a perfect map to success. I just wanted to make that because I researched you internally, and I just know, and I love the way you teach.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. Let's clap it up one time together. Ready?
On behalf of Southwestern College, we would just like to thank you for being and joining us today. You are amazing. You have graced us with your knowledge and your wisdom, and thank you so much. One more time, everyone. Thank you.
Oh, sure.